play on the machine. My voice came back saying things I never said. The walls were quiet, but the air moved like it remembered something. There was no one in the room, but something knew I was listening. It wasn't supposed to exist. That's what they said in the deposition. The subproject, the subject, the facility. Subproject 84, subject 0142. If I had just ignored the label, I wouldn't be here. I was supposed to copy reels, transfer the reel-to-reel archives into digital, redact faces, lower the noise floor, slice out identifiers. Just dead files, that's what we called them. Spools of breathless hours locked inside magnetic tape. Voices of men who don't exist. Procedures that never happened. But the reel marked 0142. It played in reverse, on its own. I wasn't even near the console. It started with a cough. One of those dry, strained throat clears that people make when they don't know they're being recorded. Then silence. Then breath. Then something that sounded like me. Not similar to me. Not a metaphor. I mean, it was my voice. Pacing. Talking. Confessing things I hadn't done yet. I remember the room. That's the first thing they tried to take from me. They told me there was no room B12, that the tape was mislabeled, that the voice was a mimic test, part of the duplication sequence from Operation Dormouse. But I remember the room. The ventilation ran under the linoleum tiles, not above. One fluorescent panel flickered and buzzed in a rhythm like a slow heartbeat. There was a table with a leather strap coiled underneath it, frayed. No camera, no exit handle on the inside. And the voice. The voice always started just as I stopped asking questions. "I remember what you did," it said, flat, clear. Every time I pressed stop, it started again. Every time I shut it off, the counter ticked forward like it hadn't. Sometimes I let it play while I stepped out for air. I would come back and the reel would be spinning, but the room would feel different, used, like it had been sitting with someone inside. At first, I thought it was some kind of psychological trick embedded in the sound. They used to do that, you know. Slip theta wave entrainment under coded speech during interrogations, make your body feel cold without knowing why. MK Ultra wasn't the only one. Subproject 84 was quieter, never made the press. 14 subjects, 1 survived, and the one who did, 0142, he didn't talk, but someone logged his heartbeat for 67 days. No food, no just a room with one audio feed. No one ever mentioned it again, until I found the backup reel. I wasn't supposed to hear what came next. I think that's why they put it on analog, to keep it buried. Digital bleeds, analog forgets. But the tape remembered. It played a sound that should have been impossible. It wasn't quite human, not monstrous, just off. It sounded like breathing from a body that didn't move, didn't shift weight, didn't blink or swallow, like it was pretending to be human and never quite got the rhythm right. I heard it every time I tried to sleep. Not loud, just there. Like the shape of someone standing in a doorway behind your dream. And here's where it starts to twist, because I told no one. I didn't upload the file, didn't mark the anomaly. I kept it, started taking it home on my own drives. I know how that sounds. I know what that implies. But it wasn't obsession. It was recognition, because that voice kept changing. It started borrowing memories, things I hadn't said out loud, not in years, old things. My mother's final voicemail, the way she whispered, "Are you there?" right before the phone cut out. My ex-girlfriend's laugh, the one she stopped using after the overdose. The exact tone my father used the night he told me he'd found God and left. All of it. On the real. And then my voice again. Calm, direct, asking someone questions. It sounded like a session. A patient intake almost. But the answers never came. Only breath. And that's when I realized the recording wasn't two people. It was one. And it was me. I started cross-referencing the vocal print, used every tool I had, spectral graph, waveform match, breath interval patterning. It wasn't a simulation. It was a real recording of my voice from an angle I didn't remember saying anything. Different pitch, different lung pressure, like I was deeper, older, or already gone. And then the room started to change. Not the tapes. The room. I'd step into the archive and something would feel slightly off. The light in the far corner would flicker twice instead of once. The temperature gauge would reset. The door would take half a second longer to unlock. These things sound small, but when you live in a space, when you calibrate your body to the hum of a place like that, you know. You feel it in your teeth. The room had memory. It was remembering something I hadn't done yet, and I started dreaming. Not full dreams, flashes. The same room, empty, then not empty. Then I was in it, strapped down, but calm, like I was volunteering. That's the first cliff you walk off, when memory stops being a timeline and starts being a corridor, where every door leads to a different version of a day you thought you already lived. I started writing things down to make sure. Dates, times, things I ate. One morning I wrote down black coffee, bruised banana, 6:34 a.m. The next day, I found the note, already written, in my handwriting, dated for the day before I wrote it, and the banana was fresh. The reel kept playing, even when unplugged. That's not metaphor. I took it to an empty room. No deck, no speaker, just the box. It still hummed. The same low pulsing frequency. My body started to sync with it. Breath first, then heart rate, then thoughts. Not all thoughts feel authored, you know. Some arrive like passengers in a room you forgot you left unlocked. This one kept whispering, "Go back." And I did. I went back to the facility at night. They didn't guard that wing anymore. Too many redactions in the paperwork. No one wants to patrol a hallway that doesn't officially exist. I found room B12. I didn't expect it to be there, but it was. Same tiles, same flicker, same air, and the smell, like electricity and sweat and something old trying not to rot. There was a chair in the center. No restraints now, just an old analog recorder and a note, 6 words. His memories retained beyond protocol thresholds. Not signed, not dated, just there. And that's when I knew. Subject 0142. He wasn't someone else. He was the first version of me. I don't mean that metaphorically. I don't mean that like I saw myself in him, or I understood his pain. I mean that literally, biologically. 0142 was my baseline, a memory-holding experiment that exceeded containment. He wasn't supposed to live past the trial phase, but he did, and they didn't know what to do with him, so they locked him inside a repeating protocol. Looped days, familiar voices, triggers meant to fracture cognition until he begged for silence. But he didn't. He just listened. For 67 days. The logs were buried, not deleted, just misfiled. CIA indexing has a trick for this. They'll label files with zeros that mean nothing, then distribute the contents across unrelated projects. A little bit under sleep studies, a little bit under pharmacological response, a little under acoustics. But if you follow the thread long enough, it wraps around the same thing. Subproject 84. No drugs, No injections, no hypnosis. Just sound. Sound designed to anchor memory, then fracture it, then loop the fractures until identity becomes architecture. You stop being a person. You start becoming a room. I found his final recording. It wasn't in the vault. It was on a personal drive tucked behind the vent shaft of B12. Someone didn't want it in the system. It was labeled Return. The reel clicks once before it starts. You hear the room, like it's breathing. No dialogue at first. Then him. But it's not him. It's me. And I don't mean it sounds like me. I mean, I remember saying those words. Not years ago. Yesterday. And that's when I realized there is no subject 0142. There never was. There's only one subject, and he just keeps coming back. Every cycle, every version, every experiment, they wipe the memory, trigger the protocol, let the identity reassemble, see what changes. But something didn't reset this time. Something held on. Something broke protocol thresholds. The voice that kept appearing on the reel, it wasn't recorded. It was leaking. Leaking between iterations. Echoes from the last version of me bleeding into this one. I started seeing rooms that didn't exist. Not hallucinations. Blueprints. Every time I shut my eyes, I could map new corridors. Ones no one ever built. Ones with observation windows facing empty beds. Ones with chairs bolted to the ceiling, like gravity got rewired. And always one room with no door. Just sound. One night I woke up with dried blood in my ears. No pain, no wound. Just the residue of something having passed through. And the reel was gone. I reported it missing. They told me it never existed. That I had a history of stress responses, that I'd been on leave for a week already, that there was no Subproject 84, that there was no Subject 0142, that my clearance didn't authorize me to discuss anomalies, that my employment was being reviewed. They said it all calmly, with concern, with careful, artificial empathy. I told them I understood, that I needed rest, that I would go home, and I did. But my home wasn't my home anymore. The furniture was the same, the smell was right, but the layout was subtly wrong. The coffee mug I always left in the sink, gone. The old water stain near the window, cleaned. The mark on the wall where my headboard scraped, repainted. Like the place had been studied and rebuilt by someone who almost remembered how I lived. I checked my phone. No missed calls, no messages, just one new voice memo, no contact name. I played it, and I heard myself, whispering, "Don't trust the walls." That's it, just that, just me, telling me, something I hadn't said yet. And the reel kept spinning in my head. The thing they never accounted for was this. Sometimes memory doesn't degrade. Sometimes it burrows, becomes instinct, becomes rhythm, becomes the part of you that taps your foot at the exact moment a sound you haven't heard in years resurfaces. And I started following it. That rhythm, that thrum in my chest, like something inside me was pulling back toward origin, toward the first fracture, the first reset. I went back. I don't even remember how I got in. No badge, no lock, just a hallway that unfolded like it remembered me. I passed 6 empty rooms, each one a little more degraded than the last. Ceilings collapsed, glass blackened, chairs overturned like someone tried to escape and gave up halfway. Room 7 was different, intact, clean, waiting. The chair was warm, the reel was already spinning, the room filled with breath, and then the voice, not mine, not quite. It was older, more tired, but it knew me. It spoke my name the way only someone who's said it 1,000 times alone in the dark can say it. It said, "You're the one that held on." Then silence. Then the reel reversed. And I felt something slide out of me, like memory being peeled back, like my body exhaling its last secret. I woke up in my car, no tape, no note, just a small puncture behind my ear, and the feeling that I was missing time. 12 days. Gone. No logs, no GPS, no purchases, just a blank stretch of calendar and a body that felt slightly used. My left eye twitched when I turned toward light. My fingers hesitated half a second before recognizing heat. And when I spoke, I could hear a second tone under my voice. A low hum, like a reel still turning. That was 2 months ago. Since then, I've noticed small repetitions. People asking me the same questions twice, in the same tone. Emails arriving before I send them. My reflection blinking out of sync, just once. I started recording myself, not for memory, for proof. But when I play the tapes back, there's always one sentence I don't remember saying, always whispered, always at the end, and it's always the same. They know you know. I stopped sleeping, not by choice. I just couldn't anymore. Every time I closed my eyes, I could feel something rewinding, not dreaming, remembering, like someone was fast scanning through a version of me I didn't consent to. I started tracing the voices, not metaphorically, spectrally. I filtered out the noise floor, layered waveforms, listened at half speed, and there it was, underneath the breath, underneath my voice. A second one, fainter, inverted, not reversed, not mirrored, inverted, like a voice that only existed when you weren't listening directly. And it said, "I kept us alive, not once, not as a glitch, every file, every tape, every shadow of memory I tried to ignore." That phrase, "I kept us alive," and I started to wonder, what if 0142 was the experiment, not the subject, the iteration, the one that survived? What if every memory I've had, every habit, every sound that's followed me since childhood was residue? What if I'm not the first version? What if I'm the first one to remember? Because that would mean the others, the dozens, maybe hundreds of versions they ran before, all of them are still in here, trapped, echoing. The headaches started last week, low, pulsing hums in the center of my skull. They vibrate when I'm near mirrors. They spike when I hear recordings of myself. Yesterday, I found a mirror I didn't install, frameless, bolted to the wall of my bedroom. It was already on when I woke up, lit from behind. I looked into it and saw nothing but the chair from B12. Just the chair, like a memory bleeding forward. And tonight, the power cut out. Not the block, just my apartment. Only one device stayed on, an answering machine, the kind with the tiny red blinking light, analog, dusty, not mine. No tape inside, no speaker connected, just blinking. I pressed play. There was no message, just static, then breathing, then a voice, gentle, like a nurse waking you from surgery. "This is your last version. Make it count." And now, I don't know what I am. I don't know if I'm a person or just a recording still playing back. I don't know how long I've been in this version, or how many have come before. I don't know if these memories are mine, or if they're the echo of someone who stopped trying to escape. Maybe I've already done this. Maybe this confession, this voice, is the leak. Maybe I'm not telling you this. Maybe you're just listening to the next version trying to remember itself. I tried deleting the files. They came back. I burned the reel. It played anyway. I smashed the recorder. My voice still answered when I screamed. And now I hear it again. Not in the room, not through a speaker. Inside, whispering, like a reel spooling back to zero. And it's saying the same thing over and over, quieter each time, like a heartbeat forgetting how to continue. You're the one that held on. You're the one that held on. You're the one. But I don't think I did. I think I broke. I think I slipped between versions. I think this one was never supposed to survive. And now there's no one left to rewind me. Just the room, and the chair, and the reel, still spinning, waiting for someone else to press play.